It is July 3rd, 1863. The third and final day of the Battle of Gettysburg is about to commence. Robert E. Lee decides to punch the Union center line after a fierce cannonade erupting, and the noise could be heard all the way from Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. And across the field behind me will charge thousands upon thousands of Confederate soldiers here at Cemetery Ridge, the Union Center. And the Union is going to hold strong. In fact, the high water mark is right here where the Union will hold up, and Armistead will be killed, the Confederate general. And on these grounds around me, and on Culp's Hill for a second time, the Confederates will attack here on Cemetery Ridge. And there's one regiment from New Jersey that hold the line, and that's the 12th New Jersey. I have here with me the battle maps of the American Battlefield Trust, the battle maps of the Civil War, the Eastern Theater by the American Battlefield Trust with me here. And finally it says, the battle renewed at 4:30 a.m. on July 3rd at Culp's Hill. For 7 hours, the longest sustained fighting of the battle, the two sides grappled. In the end, the Federal position proved too strong to dislodge. After striking each Union flank, Lee set his sights on the Federal center. Amassing some 120 cannon, Lee bombarded that Union position. Union cannon roared to life, responding in kind. At the conclusion of the bombardment, 12,000 Confederate soldiers launched the most infamous assault of Lee's career. In less than an hour, the Confederates were repulsed, and the next day, Lee started the long march back to Virginia. The last great Confederate offensive in the Eastern Theater was over. 4 months after the battle, President Lincoln used the dedication ceremony for Gettysburg Soldiers National Cemetery to honor the fallen Union soldiers and define the purpose of the war in his historic Gettysburg address. Now, from where I'm standing, that tree line right there is the Confederate line. And what will happen is those 12,000 Confederates under Pickett and Pettigrew are going to charge, and they're going to slam into these lines hard. And their high water mark is going to be right here along this line. And right over there, if you can see, is where the 12th New Jersey Monument sits, with the buck and ball. And that's where we will go to. So here on the battle maps of the Gettysburg campaign, from Battle Maps of the Civil War, the Eastern Theater by the American Battlefield Trust, It shows here Smith in the 12th New Jersey. And they went against Fry, Marshall, Davis, Lawrence, Tremble, Lane, Brockenborough. They faced all those Confederates. The Mississippians, North Carolinians, Alabamians, Tennesseans, all right here. And they had the 111th New York, 125th New York, 1st Delaware, and 14th Connecticut, with the 108th New York and 125th New York all around them to help them out with this battle. And it's here they will make a stand and fight. And we will talk about the books that I have in just a moment. So I have you here today at Pickett's Charge with the 12th New Jersey Volunteers at the monument. And I have right here with me, not too far, the copse of trees that became the high watermark of the Confederate assault on July 3rd, 1863. And on here it says, page 293, on New Jersey troops in the Gettysburg campaign by Samuel Toombs, that Colonel William E. Potter of the 12th Regiment New Jersey Volunteers, in his masterly address at the dedication of the monument of that regiment on the 26th of May, 1886, thus describes the advance and repulse of Pettigrew's division. The brigade of Smith, now about to receive this tremendous attack, was still posted, as I have heretofore stated. Our own regiment, the 12th New Jersey, was its proper right. The strength of the latter, as shown at the muster of June 30th, 3 days before, was 25 officers and 507 enlisted men present for duty, or a total of 532. Despite the casualties thus far, it probably then had in line 400 men. It was armed with the Springfield smoothbore musket, caliber 69, a terrible weapon at close range. The usual cartridge carried a large ball and 3 buckshot, but many of the men, while awaiting the enemy's advance, had opened their boxes and prepared special cartridges of from 10 to 25 buckshot alone. It was the only regiment in the division bearing the arm mentioned, and I doubt whether anywhere upon that field a more destructive fire was encountered than at the proper time blazed forth from its front. The men were young, well-disciplined, of respectable parentage, in comfortable circumstances, and almost solely of native birth. In the entire regiment, as originally mustered, there were but 72 men of foreign nativity, and these were the almost without exception of faithful soldiers. The men had the confidence of their officers, who were in turn very generally trusted and respected by their men. Of very much the same stock were the 108th New York, 14th Connecticut, and 1st Delaware, as they then stood. Now it says here on page 304, the conduct of the 12th New Jersey Infantry was also of the most exemplary character, and the reports of all the superior officers mention specifically their brilliant achievements and the coolness and bravery exhibited under the most trying ordeal human nature had ever been subjected to. Colonel Thomas A. Smith, commanding the brigade, says, the officers and men behaved with the greatest coolness and endured this terrible fire with much fortitude. As the fire of the enemy's batteries slackened, their infantry moved upon our position in 3 lines preceded by skirmishers. Major John T. Hill, commanding the 12th New Jersey Volunteers, directed his men to retain their fire during the charge of the enemy until they were within 20 yards, when, at his command, so tremendous a fire of buck and ball was poured into their ranks as to render it impossible that one of them could reach the breastworks. The report of Lieutenant William E. Porter of the 12th, whose duties as ordnance officer received the warm commendation of General Hayes, shows that 2,500 stand of arms were collected and that fully 1,000 more were left upon the field for want of time to gather them. The number of prisoners General Hayes estimates at 2,000. The casualties of the 12th Regiment during the 2 days were heavy. The loss sustained in charging the Bliss Barn was severe, the total for the 2 days being 115. With me here, Brigades of Gettysburg, the Union and Confederate Brigades at the Battle of Gettysburg, by Bradley M. Gottfried. It says here on page 174, while the muskets of the 12th New Jersey loaded with buckshot blew giant holes in the Confederate formation, 2 companies from the 14th Connecticut were also creating havoc, as its men were armed with sharp repeating rifles. The men worked in pairs, one loaded while the other fired a second rifle. The Confederate color guards approached, but when the fire proved too hot, many lay down for protection. Several came within a few rods of the Federal position. The firing was so rapid that the men's guns' barrels became too hot to touch. Some of the men attempted to cool them off by dousing them with water. A shell fragment hit Colonel Smith during the charge, and Colonel F. Pierce of the 108th New York took his place while the wound was being dressed. When some members of the 12th New Jersey ran out of ammunition, they resorted to throwing rocks at the enemy. So with the defeat of Pettigrew's division, the men could look over to their left and see that Webb's Philadelphia Brigade was in danger of being overrun by Pickett's division. The commanders of both the 14th Connecticut and 1st Delaware ordered their men to left oblique fire. Caught between two fires, Pickett's men either surrendered or began their retreat. With the charge destroyed, the 1st Delaware jumped over the wall with bayonets fixed and gathered up scores of prisoners. So at the end of running out of ammo, the 12th New Jersey even just picked up rocks and threw them at the Confederates to try to beat them to advancing. So I have to say that's pretty New Jersey for you. We don't have it, we'll just throw it. We don't give a heck what we're doing. But that's actually pretty brave. I commend it. But yet nobody here in the 12th New Jersey was recommended for any Medal of Honor. Not one. So I have with me here New Jerseyans in the Civil War for Union and Liberty by William J. Jackson. It says here on page 141 that although the outcome of Gettysburg was probably decided on the second day, the popular image of the critical moment is the attack against Cemetery Ridge on the 3rd day of July, led by Pickett's division on Longstreet Corps. So the 12th Regiment, after another failure to hold Bliss Farm, was in position that afternoon to close the copse of trees on Cemetery Ridge, the target of the Confederate attack. John T. Hill, until recently a captain, now a major, ably commanded the 12th. One of the members of the regiment described the Confederate advance as the greatest sight I ever witnessed. The different lines came marching toward us, their bayonets glistening in the sun, their officers mounted, riding up and down the lines. When the grand butternut ranks got close to the ridge, the 400 sturdy farmer boys in the 12th joined the rest of the Union guns, letting loose deadly fire of buck and ball, the large ball and buckshot from their Springfield smoothbore muskets. The firestorm decimated the North Carolinians advancing up the slope. The high water mark of the Confederacy, the temporary break in the Union line, receded quickly. Lee did not have the strength to support adequately the valiant efforts of his legions that day. The repulse of the attack on Cemetery Ridge is one of the momentous events in American history. By comparison to others along Cemetery Ridge, the monument to the Jerseymen in the 12th Regiment is fairly modest. Looking at it, the casual visitor to Gettysburg most likely will have little appreciation of the significance of their participation in those brief but fateful moments. Nearby, the 12th Regiment on Cemetery Ridge stood the durable New Jersey Artillery Battery A, commanded during the Gettysburg campaign by Lieutenant Augustin N. Parsons. It formed part of Meade's artillery reserve. Scarcely a month earlier, it had fought furiously at Salem Church. On the 3rd day of Gettysburg, it pounded Pickett's gallant division with shrapnel on the right flank of Confederates sweeping towards Cemetery Ridge. So New Jersey did excellent here, even in this book by anybody's standards, and that makes me a proud New Jerseyan. And I am glad that the 12th New Jersey is the cherry on top of the 3 days battle at Gettysburg. Now, in this episode, I have with me again Mike Lentz from the Dressing Gettysburg, and he's going to help talk about a brief chat about the 12th Infantry Regiment of New Jersey and their importance to this battle. And we're going to get to that right now.
Yeah, so 12th New Jersey, part of Smythe's Brigade this is the 3rd Division of the 2nd Corps. The 12th New Jersey has a nickname called the Old Buck and Ball Regiment. It's because they're one of the few units that do not go to rifled muskets. They go to 69 caliber smoothbores shooting buck and ball, a type of ammunition that you can see on top of their monument. It's one giant ball surrounded by little tiny pieces, little tiny balls around it, so that when you fire, it kind of serves as a proto shotgun. And it's meant for close range combat. They're not shooting at you from a long way away. They want to get in close and they want to fight you. But what makes this monument important is it gives us a picture of something that does not exist today: the Bliss Farm. Now, the Bliss Farm, owned by William Bliss, is going to be, see right here, this is the barn, big old barn, and the farm. Right. But if we take a step out here, we're on Cemetery Ridge, the main Union battle line. If you look over across the way, that tree line is the main Confederate battle line at Seminary Ridge. And if you follow, in between, almost smack dab in between, there's this orchard of trees. That is where the Bliss Farm stood. A barn of that size and a farm of that size could be used by sharpshooters on both sides to shoot into each other's lines. So on July 2nd and on July 3rd, fighting would erupt over that barn and over that farm. The 12th New Jersey will be involved in that. And so that's why they have that bas relief on their monument, to show you they were a part of that fight. Eventually, the division commander here, the Union division commander, Alexander Hayes, is going to get so fed up with this back and forth fighting, he sends out the 14th Connecticut to burn down the farm. And they do. Bliss will be asked about it, and he'll say something to the effect of, I would give 20 such barns for such a victory, or 20 such farms for such a victory as Gettysburg. And so the 12th New Jersey, a really beautiful little monument with a bas relief at it, and they want to let you know where they fought.
Now, I have one last book to share. That's Gettysburg by W.C. Storrick. It says here, Gettysburg and Waterloo on page 86. It says, there are striking points of resemblance between the battlefields of Gettysburg and of Waterloo. On both, the hostile armies are drawn up on two parallel ridges, separated by a shallow valley about 3/4 of a mile wide. The Union salient at the peach orchard, occupied by Sickles on the second day, corresponds to the farm of Hougoumont, held by the British at Waterloo. The Cadore buildings near the center of the field are similar to the farm of La Haye Sainte. The chief point of dissimilarity is that the main highway at Waterloo ran perpendicular to the two lines of battle, while at Gettysburg the Emmitsburg Road was nearly parallel to the lines. This road was bordered on either side by a 5-rail post fence, which proved almost as formidable an obstacle to the charge of Pickett's men as did the sunken road at Waterloo to the assaults of Napoleon's Old Guard. When the Confederates reached these fences, they were forced to climb over under a heavy short-range musketry fire before advancing. Now, I believe the question has been answered about why these New Jersey troops did not get the recognition they'd solely deserved. And I believe it's because of the command structure moving around like a revolving door because of how many casualties these New Jersey men sustained. And it happened that way too with the 12th New Jersey Infantry. It happened with everybody in this Gettysburg battle, both days for them. And sadly, that's the tragedy of it. The command structure, they failed them from top down and bottom up. And sadly, it comes to that. And that's what I believe is the command structure. Now, only thing to do moving forward is just to preserve these soldiers and their memory and keep them forever saved in the annals of history. And with that, I'd like to conclude. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.